I think like with the like people getting super triggered by discussions around fatness, I think it's a control thing. When someone says, I am fat, this is just how my body is, then that means that for you, maybe one day that will also be true. You will not actually be in control of your body that you think you have all this control over.
We're Elisa and Lily, the mother-daughter creators of StyleLikeU, and after interviewing hundreds of trailblazing individuals for our channel, we've been inspired to join the conversation and ask,
what would the world look like if everyone was told from the moment they were born, don't change a thing? What a different world that would be.
This episode of Don't Change a Thing is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is entirely online and is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to meet your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire and you'll be matched with a licensed therapist, and you can change therapists for no additional charge.
If you're thinking about starting therapy, which I highly recommend, give BetterHelp a try. Visit betterhelp.com/don'tchange today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/don'tchange.
You look very beautiful today, Mom.
Oh, why are you saying that, Lily?
Because your dress, I love the bright, vibrant blue situation going on between the headscarf and the dress.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Anyway, I am wearing a dress by my absolute favorite designer in the whole world, Susie Cave, and her clothing line, Vampire's Wife. But I'm pretty upset because I heard yesterday that her clothing line will be no more. And
which is really funny because on Sunday, I got the news that my favorite clothing line is shutting down as well. And I was like, really upset about it, which might sound superficial, but I don't think it's superficial because it's so meaningful to find.
It's superficial.
It's so meaningful to find artists in like clothing designers that really like speak to you and feel like they're helping you express yourself, and especially ones that like have so much soul embedded into them. There must be something going on in the culture that the artists that are making things for the sake of putting their soul into clothing are not able to sustain in this system. Our guest today has their own perspective on this issue of like, you know, the fashion industry in so many ways or isn't built to value like the humans that it's either serving or the makers. And in many ways, it's just all about profit over any kind of care. And there's so much harm and waste in the industry and also not creating things for everybody. So we can dig into that more later. But in the meantime, we're so excited to have queer, trans, non-binary activist, model, and dancer Jordan Allen Hall. Welcome, Jordan, to Don't Change a Thing. It's really good to see you and have you here.
I just want to say that I absolutely loved meeting you on Zoom. I felt like such a deep connection when we met earlier. Instant kinship.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I felt very similarly also after our Zoom. I was like nervous. I don't know. I've been having really bad anxiety. And like after our meeting, I was like, oh my God, like, no, that was like amazing. I really felt very connected. So great.
Did you have any hesitation about like participating in a vulnerable interview such as this?
Yeah. So I've been on a very long health journey. I have a connective tissue disorder called Lipedema, and I have a second connective tissue disorder called hyperimmobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And I went undiagnosed for a very long time because they're genetic conditions. So I started exhibiting symptoms when I was like 12, but I wasn't diagnosed until a year ago, actually like a year ago last week. Mm-hmm. And over the period of time where I was undiagnosed, I was put on a medication that really rapidly progressed my condition. And so over the course of like basically 2 years, I gained like 150 pounds. I lost all my mobility. I could like barely stand long enough to get dressed in the morning. And I would go to the doctor. I went to so many doctors. I went to maybe 15 specialists in the city. And most of them turned me away and said, just get bariatric surgery. There's nothing else wrong with you. I knew that that was not true because of how rapidly my condition declined. And I was like, and also the fact that the weight gain was not aligned with my behaviors. I was tracking my food. I went to PT for 7 months. I was doing hot yoga and swim and all these things to try and improve my mobility. And not as a weight loss thing, but more so just like feeling very confused about why I was gaining so much weight and what was happening. And long story short, I ended up getting diagnosed with this condition. And over the course of kind of maybe a year before that through now, I have spent a lot of time being very open about that online. And because it's a condition that has to do with weight and weight changes and weight gain and all these things, people have had a lot of opinions about my journey. And that has been really, really hard. And so I have actually in the past couple of months, like taken a step back from being online in such a public way about my health stuff and just my life in general, because it was kind of consuming me in a way that I didn't think was healthy.
What do you mean by that?
I just felt like I was having such I already have bad anxiety, just chronic anxiety from when I was a very young child.
Stemming from what, do you think?
I think trauma, like definitely trauma from like weight loss stuff as a child to this like hyper focus on my body as a child, both at home and socially. And also I grew up in the 2000s which we're experiencing a bit of a resurgence through right now, where there is this like hyper obsession, thin is in thing. And that's media, that's government at that time, the war on obesity, all these things. When you're a kid, it just feels like people want you to disappear because I was doing all the behaviors that were supposed to make my fatness disappear, and it wouldn't disappear. And so it's like, it's not your body, it's actually just you. And that impacts me to this day, totally, for sure, no question. I'm also someone who has always been very connected to my body. I was an athlete growing up. I was a dancer. I danced a lot from when I was like 18 to 23-ish. And so when I lost my mobility, in a lot of ways, I felt like I lost who I was. And I think there are things to critique about that. I ended up uncovering a lot of really severe internalized ableism within myself and the way that I was attaching my worth to my ability, especially as a fat person. I feel like that's something that so many people do, where it's like, I'm fat, but at least I'm healthy, or at least I go to the gym, or at least I do this. And it's like all these conditions that we put on our worth are like so meaningless because like you're a person, you have worth, you exist, you deserve to exist, you deserve to be free, to be liberated, to, you know, be loved and safe and all these things.
For doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And so were you saying, just so like, we're going to dive
Totally.
we're going to dive deep into everything you just touched on.
So much.
No, but I know. Okay. So I just want to circle back to like, so you were saying that like the last few years with everything that's been going on with your, do you call it a disorder? What do you,
Disability disorder. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Both. Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Like and you've been saying that
stuff.
you've been feeling anxious and also like feeling conflicted about your relationship to being online and sharing. So I guess that the initial question that brought you was about like how you're feeling about being here and sharing. And I guess I'm curious like where that lands. Yeah.
The reason I feel anxious a little bit about not being here, because you all are amazing, but just like being open in any sort of public way, is that people really think that they know. They think that if you share, then that becomes their thing to judge.
Well, I've noticed in our comment universe on our page and channel, like it is fascinating and it's upsetting that like we generally do have like a pretty positive, supportive community, but people do when the topic of like fatness is the topic, like people get triggered and like go wild in the comments in a way that like sometimes we're not feeling like fully prepared for how to approach or moderate or handle. Why someone else's like body in this way like triggers people.
I think it's a control issue. I think that for me specifically, like I spent my whole life being told that I was just not trying hard enough to lose weight. I was on Weight Watchers when I was 8 years old. I have done every diet under the sun between the ages of 8 and 17, and I only ever lost 5 pounds. Like, I think there's like two things about it too. I think like with the like people getting super triggered by like discussions around fatness, I do think what I was getting to was that I think it's a control thing. Is
Right.
that
Yeah.
when someone says like, I am fat and this is just how my body is, then that means that for you, maybe one day that will also be true. You will not actually be in control of your body that you think you have all this control over. You think that you can biohack and you can like do all these things, but ultimately, like, I didn't choose to have this disorder. Trust. Trust.
Right.
I did not choose to like go through this. And as much as I think people want to believe that the way our bodies look is a choice, there are things you can do, yes, that are like within your power, but we always have to weigh that against how much is not in your control. That's something I think about a lot.
What's in your control? The only thing that's in your control is how you respond to it.
Yeah.
You can't control anything outside,
Yeah.
or like the innate who you are, like your all of that you said.
Yeah.
So the only choice is to change how you respond to it.
So you said that like in the last like 3 years you gained 150 pounds. Is that like
So I gained it and then I lost it.
okay?
So-
So you're kind of like back to where you were before that
Yeah.
happened. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was because you were given something that actually inflamed the condition.
Yeah. Tough blow. And there was no way for I mean, there was a way for them to know, but not the doctor specifically who prescribed me that medication. It was prescribed by a neurologist, and the condition I have, lipedema, really should be screened in all AFAB people at puberty because it's a condition that flares up with hormonal change.
So did you gain a lot of weight as a kid, like when you were in puberty?
Yeah. So I mean, I was always like a husky kid, I guess I would say. When I look back on pictures of myself as a child, I would not say that I was a fat kid necessarily, but I weighed more, which is why my weight was always coming up. When it started, it was less an appearance thing. It was more just, well, your BMI is this and your growth chart says this. And so we're going to show you the growth chart and say, this is the normal kids and this is where you are. So
Ugh, the BMI.
literally,
God.
I mean, 8
It's
years
archaic.
old, it's like, I don't know what an 8-year-old is supposed to do about that. And also, I was very lucky to grow up in a household where my mom like handmade all my baby food. So like when we're talking about like, was I nourished? I was. Again, it wasn't a behavioral issue. It was just the way my body was. And I was probably in plus sizes, around starting young adolescence when I was kind of a tween. And that was really hard for me because my mom loves fashion and like she always was in, really cute stuff that I wanted to also be in, and I wanted to like be like her in a lot of ways. And that was something that I didn't always have the opportunity to do. And that it sucked. It sucked as a kid to feel like, it's kind of funny. People would always compare me to my aunt instead of my mom because my aunt was plus size. And I was always like, and I love my aunt. She was like a part of our family growing up. But I was always like, I don't know why they're always comparing me to her. Like, that's not my mom. Like, I don't look like her. I look like you, And like, of course, I look like my aunt. We're all related. But I remember really struggling with that as a kid and feeling always just so upset about that. And looking back, it makes sense. And also it's kind of funny because it's just the thing that like really like got to me.
My mom and I never fit into my
She's
mom's
never been able
clothes.
to wear. We had and there was a period.
And I used to just go jean shopping with her and just be like,
jeans are
so jealous.
prison.
So jealous. Like I just and I mean, I obviously am like, well, I don't know what to call myself, but I know I like hold a lot of privilege in my body, and I'm not, I might be considered like a small fat person or not even, I don't know what to call myself, but even me, is as a kid couldn't fit into the biggest size at the store, and like, you know, had experienced a lot of like envy. And what's been like your experience as a kid? Was it like a challenging kind of thing to accept that you had to shop in the plus size like stores, or did you kind of get with that young, or like, and like where are you at with that now as far as like this sort of division of clothes?
When I was in high school, I would squeeze my fat ass into the H&M, American Apparel, stretchy clothes, because I was still, I mean, I was a kid, right? So I was probably like a size in high school, like a 16, 18. So I was a small, fat person, and I had the privilege of being able to like go to those straight size stores and make it work. And so I didn't really start shopping in plus size stores until I was in college. And now it's really not only where I shop, because obviously places like Big Bed Press, they carry all sizes, or Ray, that carry all sizes. Like now that I'm, I don't know, in this part of my life, those are really more the stores that I'm shopping at. A lot of times there's stores that I've modeled for, stores that I've collaborated with, at least from my perspective, really understand why it is important to, even if, and I know there are like studies to say this is not true, that like making bigger sizes like costs stores money. That's like actually like a,
is that like a bullshit
thing? It is a bullshit thing.
Because they say it's more fabric.
Yeah, but then there's like less waste, and so it ends up kind of being a wash, as far as my understanding goes. But I think there is something really valuable in having a store where like I could go with my best friend, and my best friend is like a size 2, and we can walk into the same store and try on the same outfit and experience that. Because of the things that I felt growing up with my mom, and feeling like I could never wear what she was wearing or emulate her, I guess, because of my size. It's clothes. I don't know why we can't just make them all in all sizes, even if that means, you know, having customs or whatever it is. Like,
yeah.
And I understand there is a business aspect of things, and that's fine. But I think there's more people can do, and I think it's very interesting that the stores that are producing all sizes are smaller businesses
who care more,
who there is more financial risk, basically.
Yeah, it's actually worse for them to try it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But there are amazing people who are doing amazing work. One of my good friends, Emma Zach, runs this store called Berries, and she does reworked vintage in up to a 5X and like in New York. And yeah, there are so many people who are doing such good work. And I also think a lot of times in these conversations, we get very down on like the state of things because all these stores are closing, and I feel it. I mean, I've had several of my favorite stores close over the past year, and that has been really hard to watch, especially because I feel like with the rise and complicated feelings around the mainstreaming of body positivity as a movement, but there was a moment where things were really seemingly like, I don't know, like going great. And then
it's flipped.
It's really taken us.
We're going to get really into that.
I think
we totally get into that.
This episode of Don't Change a Thing is brought to you by BetterHelp.
So Lily, how is therapy so far 2024? How has it been a time of celebration for you?
Not only is it a place where I get to like unpack obviously the things that I'm struggling with in life, but it also is like this really valuable hour of the week where I get to pause and also celebrate the areas that I'm like growing and look back at like where I was when I started therapy and see how far I've come in this day and age when we're moving so fast and we're just constantly like distracted and consuming media on our phones and just nonstop momentum forward. It just is so meaningful to me to have a space like therapy where I can pause and honor the person that I've become. BetterHelp is entirely online and is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to meet your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire and you'll be matched with a licensed therapist, and you can change therapists for no additional charge.
Visit betterhelp.com/don'tchange today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/don'tchange. Go therapy.
Yeah.
A recent story, which again, I think is privileged in the sense that like this would be even some, you know, something that I don't think about more often, but like recently we went shopping to like a pretty like high end store that I don't go into like high end stores very often, but we kind of were like, let's treat ourselves after we like did something pretty that we wanted to celebrate. And I just noticed that like some of these like the design, like, you know, these like high end designers, like
Very pretentious.
like super, you know,
mega
fashion,
mean pretentious.
which I'm not as like versed in, but this one brand that I really was like, oh my God, I love this brand. Like, could this be like a brand that I like connect to? Because it's like so special when you find someone that you like think is makes stuff that's so your personality. And they didn't even carry in that shop an extra large.
Yeah.
And I was like, how is it 2024? And like, you know, that's far from the minimum
Right.
of what we should be expecting, obviously.
So
and it's just
unacceptable.
they don't want to see bigger body people in their clothes.
They don't want to see bigger body, but they also thrive and make tons of money off of being mean.
Yeah.
Like that that's
and
the
not
reason.
and unattainable.
And like clothing should be friendly, fun, inclusive, like music. It should be something that we all connect to together, that we share together, that we get inspired together, that we express ourselves freely however we want to, in any way that we want to. Why has clothing become something that is scary and hurts you? It makes no sense. Yeah.
Capitalism. Do you want to say anything about capitalism in that regard?
I always say this, like everything's connected, and like you take like Abercrombie or Lululemon, which are two companies that the CEO or whoever it was made public statements where they said, we do not want fat people wearing our clothes. We do not want them above a size 12. We do not want it because it degrades our brand. It degrades the aesthetic, right? That was probably 10 years ago for both of them. Abercrombie was probably like closer to 15 years ago that was what happened. But I think it still rings true for a lot of brands that like the exclusivity is what sells, despite at this point 70% of their market, or the market, right, the clothing market, 70% of people wear above a size 14. So you want to sell your clothes, you want to make money selling to 30% of people, of women.
Yeah, like
Okay, so fine. So you want to do that. And then what you're doing by doing that is you're feeding the weight loss industry, which I looked it up the other day. I don't even know how much in that industry is with Ozempic and everything. I don't even know. But it was actually a number that I was shocked by, and I didn't think that was possible when I looked it up the other day. Yeah. But it all feeds into
It's tragic.
the mentality of exploiting people's insecurities to make them like want these things as the answer to their problems, somehow they have deemed more profitable than being just inclusive of their actual like demographic of people that would want to buy the clothes as they are.
People get so duped, especially now, I think, in this like kind of post body positive world, I guess, if you want to say it that way. Tough blow, but true. Like we're back, I don't know if I ever really left, but in this like neoliberal capitalist, neoliberal feminist space where it's like, well, I'm a woman, not me, but like whatever. When I hear people say this, like, I'm a woman and I chose to take Ozempic or a semaglutide, and because I'm a woman making that choice for myself, for my body, that's a feminist choice. Okay. I mean, that's
what the rhetoric is around it right now.
It's why they marketed cigarettes in the 80s. They were like, women can smoke. Yes, queen. You go smoke that cigarette. You're a woman. You're an empowered woman. So smoke that cigarette, which no judgment for people who smoke. But like, it's genius marketing. It's exactly what we're seeing right now. I mean, Novo Nordisk, the company who produces Ozempic, literally put out I think it was like a 4-episode series about basically combating weight stigma, but they make Ozempic. They make Wegovy. Like,
what's Wegovy?
It's Ozempic, but it's the weight loss,
it's made
the
for
weight
that.
loss Ozempic. Yeah,
diabetes.
Ozempic is liver diabetes. Wegovy is the one, and Manjaro and Zepbound, I think, are the 3 that are specifically for weight loss, but it's just a dosage difference.
I mean, I have Googled and looked up the amount of side effects.
So I went on Mounjaro for like 3 weeks a year ago because my doctors were like, this is the only option for you. After many years of them being like, weight loss surgery is the only option for you, because they didn't want to diagnose me or didn't know to diagnose me, whatever. Give them the benefit of that doubt.
Generous of you.
Choices.
Yeah.
They don't know. But
Fear, so much fear.
fears, definitely a lot of fear around fat people and in medicine. I think a lot of times, I was talking to my psychiatrist about this a while ago, actually, but she said just that. She was like, I think that because they don't have experience working on someone who is 400, 500 pounds, when you walk in the room, they're just terrified because despite us, that we all are human, we all have human bodies, like they just like tense. And it's like, I'm just a person. And like, you can just listen to what I'm saying and maybe think about what my symptoms are meaning.
Listen to what you're saying. What in a concept.
I know
all
and
across
like
the board.
believe you.
But all across the board in medicine and in everything in life. Just like listen to what someone is saying.
And in both ways, too, I think it's really interesting because my primary care for the past few years was a health at every size, weight neutral practitioner. Weight neutral does not mean weight blind. So if I gain 150 pounds in 2 years, maybe it is something to think about.
So it was like being ignored because it was like taboo to like speak about weight,
or because I don't know why. I mean, I just think it's one of those things where it's like right now we have doctors who are saying if you are a certain weight, you need to get bariatric surgery, you need to go on Ozempic, you need to do XYZ, with no consideration for what you're eating, how much you're exercising, what other symptoms you're presenting, doesn't matter. But then again, on the other side, it's practitioners who I think are, again, operating out of this fear and ignoring a big part of bodies, which is change. And I would argue, like, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but like change in condition would probably be like the biggest indicator for something being like wrong or also a condition improving is change. And it's hard because I know for me, something that I really attribute to kind of the delay in my care was that my primary care doctor, who I was seeing for years prior to the flare-up, moved to LA. And so I couldn't see them anymore. And so I had a new primary care doctor who only started seeing me after I had lost a lot of my mobility, before I had even realized that I was gaining weight so rapidly, because it was kind of right in that in-between period. And so that doctor didn't see the change because they weren't there to see the change.
Right.
I really do believe that like part of why what I was experiencing, despite me going to appointments and being like, I am not doing well, there are so many assumptions that we make about fat people. And so like, if I come in and say I'm not doing well, it's like, well, you're fat, so you're not doing well. But you didn't see me a year ago when I was dancing 6 days a week. You didn't see me a year ago when I was running around all over New York, like living my life and having no mobility issues in any part of my body. But now you see me today and you make this assumption that things have always been this way, despite me telling you that things have not always been this way. And I also think that has to do with the lack of trust that doctors have with their fat patients, because there is this like intrinsic belief that we are lying about our behaviors or lying. I mean, even when I was 8 years old in that appointment where I remember clear as day, my doctor holding up the growth chart, she asked me what my favorite food was. And I said tomatoes. And my mom, bless her heart, was like, but you love mac and cheese. And then it was this whole thing of, well,
Cat's out of the bag or something.
or whatever. Like, I'm like,
so do a lot of
love mac-
skinny
yes, of
people
course I
love mac and cheese.
but my
like,
favorite food is tomatoes. I eat tomatoes to this day. I eat tomatoes basically every day. Like, why is the assumption that I was like hiding that, or why is that even really relevant? Like,
right.
you asked me as an 8-year-old what my favorite food was, and I said it was a fruit vegetable. Tomatoes are not fruits.
Yeah, and that's what is like so insidious in the culture in general is like there, and then in the comments and like everything we're talking about, like they don't believe that a fat person could be like healthy and that's just how their body is for whatever reason, and B, think that they have more of a right with someone that's like fat to like pick that their diet apart or just like to just involve themselves in the person's private personal choices. And like meanwhile there's so many skinny people that eat like shit, and that's fine too, whatever.
And are so unhealthy doing what they're doing because they're trying so hard to
or they're just naturally really thin. I mean, I have so many naturally super thin friends who eat so much less quote unquote like healthy than I do, and it has no bearing on their weight whatsoever.
And I think it's interesting too that despite like, for me, like my platform online, I've spent so much time talking about my struggles, my mobility issues, all this, the lipedema. The Ehlers-Danlos is a newer diagnosis, but still.
What is that?
Ehlers-Danlos is just a genetic condition where your connective tissue disorder or your connective tissues are looser. And so I can like drop into a middle split without stretching. My joints pop out with a lot of ease, and have since I was very little. I used to like always have to go to the doctor because my elbow would just like pop out. No cause. But despite so much of my internet presence being talking about the things that I've gone through, when you say, oh, like fat people can be healthy, they think that like that means that I am saying that I am healthy. I was not healthy at 515 pounds. I wasn't. I was only that weight because of the amount of fluid in my body and like the amount of like disordered tissue that had built up. And that is still in my body right now. Like all of our bodies are different. It's nobody is saying that there is like one way to be, and that obviously health is not a moral win, right? Like people get sick for all different reasons.
A lot of shame.
Especially in this country where our food is so unregulated. It's really interesting to me the ways in which capitalism, the way that individuals are shamed for the ways that our bodies respond to the foods that we're eating. And all of that ends up coming down on individuals, in particular fat individuals, despite, I would say, most people understanding and acknowledging that like there are issues with our food. But nobody is coming after these food manufacturers or the government for not setting better regulations. Just get Ozempic. Just pay more money. $100 a month for Ozempic.
And it's like that with everything. Take a pill. Don't get to the bottom of your trauma or your emotional problems or things that are holding you back with work and with facing things and with being real and being truthful and all of the years and the work that takes to get to your real self. Instead, just cover it up. Just take a sleeping pill. Take a pill to make you supposedly happy today or less anxious today, or everything is that, which is again capitalism. Obviously, it's just greed, because what is really going to make a healthy world, what's really going to stop the violence, what's really going to create connectivity and heal the polarization, what's really going to just make happy people are people that understand themselves, people that are whole in themselves, people that are comfortable in their skin, people that love themselves first, and then have so much love to give to all around. Once you love yourself first, then you've got endless love for everyone else. We don't live in a world that supports that, and so we stay in these same cycles of judging and of fear, and because you don't know who you are.
It's like so much fear.
Yeah, you have to know yourself, like to love and accept another person.
At least the way that I perceive so much of what I see online is that there is this like massive fear of acceptance, because people conflate acceptance and like endorsement, or acceptance and like passivity, I guess. Great example. If I accept that I can't stand, that my mobility is so deeply compromised, then that means I'm never going to work to change it. I didn't say that. I never said that.
Right.
That is so
Wait,
true.
I want to say something.
That's
I never
majorly,
said that.
that's majorly true. Acceptance is associated with giving up,
Complacency.
with complacency, instead of the opposite, what it is, which is actually invigorating and
Space.
And
Yeah.
that's literally, I mean, that's literally what the mission statement of this show is, which is like, it's called Don't Change a Thing, meaning not don't change, actually grow and evolve, but not from a place of berating yourself, because you never can grow in the great way and transform when you're berating yourself, hating yourself, trying to change who you are, be
you
someone
cannot
else.
grow that way.
That's not how you grow. You grow first from accepting that you don't like yourself. Just accepting wherever you are is like the only way to start to move forward.
The whole of you, all of the dark sides, the light sides, the whole of you is the only way to really make a change.
But also along those lines, like as far as just I know I keep harping on this because it really pisses me off because, but like in our comments, like there's this consistent, like the comment of you're promoting obesity or something. And I'm like,
Promoting.
I'm like, what are you? I'm sorry.
taking
Like,
no money from big obesity. I wish they would give me money. Like, what the hell?
Right.
What am I promoting?
and also like, sorry, I can't. So this person doesn't deserve to share their experience on planet Earth with us and like be an experience like being seen and the love and empathy that we would like to give everybody, like just because of the size of their body. Like they don't deserve.
There's a BMI cutoff for having social media.
There's a BMI cutoff for being like for empathy and for sharing and for connecting about one's human experience. Like
and for feeling beautiful.
Yeah.
Like that's really like that's the big affront.
Oh, totally. I mean, why do you think fat models get so much fucking shit online? Like, it's wild to me that the amount of people who take such an issue with the fact that I get hired to model underwear. How is someone else who is my size supposed to know what underwear is going to look like on them if they do not see me wearing it?
and right, good point. It's just like straightforward,
It's
like
just
practical.
It's literally just they're selling clothes, right? This is capitalism. They have a product that they're trying to sell, so this is how they're able to sell it.
And it's so hypocritical because that it's your point is exactly right, that it's like how else is someone going to know how they're going might look in the clothes. But also on the flip side, it's not like the same commenters or whatever are like yelling at a brand for like, you know, the anorexic model and saying you're promoting an eating disorder or something, you know, like not saying that everybody that's skinny is anorexic, obviously, but like,
Well, because we're so deeply programmed to believe the programming is so insidious and so deep because we still believe that is what's beautiful. Like we are buying into the bullshit. We're buying into all of the fake marketing, brainwashing bullshit. Yeah.
And so what has been like your experience? So we've touched on this like a little bit of like this moment where maybe it seemed like there was some hope for the culture shifting in a direction that would feel more inclusive of your experience. And then this rapid decline that like caught me by surprise in the last like couple of years. But and how did you feel about the like body positive movement to begin with?
When I started engaging with body positivity, that was way before it was mainstreamed, right? So that was like on Tumblr, where maybe in like 2010 to 2014, it was really centering fat women and queer people, fat Black and brown people. There was an understanding that fat liberation and body positivity were kind of all not the same, but they were kind of mixed up in a way that once capitalism ripped from its roots, like body positivity really just became about the relationship to the self as opposed to the relationship to white supremacy and the relationship to anti-fatness as a systemic oppression that is real and impacts every aspect of a person's life, socially, romantically, financially. I still have a very deep fondness of body positivity as a movement, which is maybe controversial to say in my circles, because I do believe that without body positivity, I don't think I would have been able to get to this place in myself where I could even know how to advocate for myself. I needed to understand my worth before I could step forward and say to my doctor when I was 16 that I didn't want to go on weight loss drugs when that was presented to me as an option. I don't think that had I not been in these online communities where these things were being explained to me in the way that they were, that I could have pushed back. And I'm very grateful that I did, because we know that the weight loss drugs at that time and almost always have severe side effects that are detrimental to a person's overall health and well-being. And not just the drugs, but weight loss surgeries and all these things. They have side effects that you can't even imagine. And of course, there are people who have stories, and Ozempic is the magic drug. People always say that it's the magic medicine that makes everything better. But I know people whose lives and bodies have been completely destroyed by these drugs and by these surgeries. And I think for a lot of people it is, well, it's cost benefit, right? You're weighing, now I'm not going to die of this. So whatever if I die of something else, right? It's okay if I'm not going to die of a heart attack because I'm fat. Oh, I'm just going to die of some other side effect from the surgery, and that's predictable. And so whatever it is, right? Like that, if that's a choice you want to make for your body, so be it. It's your body. It's not mine. But circling back, I do take issue when that choice is then marketed as a feminist choice, because it's a choice that you're making for yourself. Not all choices are liberatory.
Mm. So you were saying that you experienced a version of the body positive movement as far as probably the true intention of what it was supposed to be, and then it got ripped. Can you talk about that distinction of the self version of it versus the version that you think is maybe more liberatory for the collective?
I mean, fat liberation goes back to the civil rights movement, right? There were fat Black women in particular who were speaking about fatness as a intersection of marginalization that they were experiencing alongside their womanhood and their Blackness and socioeconomic status and other things. So fat liberation has these very radical and liberation-based roots that capitalism has, again, completely removed, so that now we have brands like Aerie who are posting things. A few months ago they posted, "Oh, sexy is not a size," or something like that, and there was not a model in that photo shoot that was above a size 12. Mm-hmm. And it's it sure looks like it's a size. I don't know, it's not really aligned with the message that is written out. But there is such a huge disconnect between where this movement started and where it ended up. And one of my favorite creators, Imani Barbarin, made just a genius video about this, maybe 2 years ago, where she was thin is going to come back in because of COVID, because we are all in a health panic. And what happens when that happens? We all try and regain control. And what's the thing that we've been told that we have control over? And we've been told this for decades, if not centuries, is our size. I was she predicted it. And when I saw that video, I was things are going to go downhill really quickly.
Right. Do you think it's it was able to go down so quickly because the mainstream version of the body positive movement was kind of so superficial or something that it really didn't penetrate
totally
deeply with the
it was immediately sort of capitalized on. It was immediate. It
shallow.
It just immediately became about money and selling again, and
and just one kind of curvy thing as
selling clothes.
Yeah.
It became
formalized and corporatized, and
I think what happened, and this is, I make fashion content, so this is not to say you can't do both, but I think a lot of people who are uplifted as the leaders of the body positivity movement, and to some people who conflate body positivity and fat liberation, the leaders that were uplifted were just in it for the money, right? They just wanted the followers. They wanted the clothes, and it was about the clothes. And clothes are so important. And I think that is something that sometimes I have had bristles with people in fat liberation around the ways that conversations around clothes are minimized, because how can you get a job if you can't fit the uniform, right? Like, how can you go into an interview if you can't get an outfit that fits you well? How are you going to get that job? And like, those things are classist and have other issues. And I'm not saying that to like minimize that side of things, but it's just a fact. Like, in our current system, in capitalism, in this country, if you can't dress yourself, you are then cut off from like public life in so many ways. If I can't find clothes that fit me, how am I supposed to go outside? Like, I can go outside. Yes, there are clothes that will fit me, but like,
but also like, and there's like the feeling good, just feeling confident.
Saying, let alone the importance of self-expression, like the ability to be able to, for your outer expression to mirror your spirit and who you are. Yeah. That is mental health.
I was going to say, did you finish your thought? You were like, you got to the clothing thing because you were saying like you've bristled against the fat liberation like community a bit because they've maybe thought that like clothing is a superficial or like unimportant
just, like, thing. Interpersonally, not in like a bigger like just like way, but I have had interpersonal bristles with people over that. And I don't blame like the fat lib people who I've bristled with about this, because I think that they are responding to the watering down and the ways in which these plus size influencers and fashion content creators have partaken in the watering down. And these are a lot of these influencers that we are seeing now peddling the weight loss medications and all this stuff, and kind of reeling back in their like body positive roots or whatever you want to say, like how they built their platforms, like because it was no longer profitable for them to spread a message of fat liberation and like body positivity, just because of the way that culture has shifted. And it's not just with bodies, right? I think that we're in a period of like, we're seeing a very stark rise of fascism across the board. And I think that I would be remiss to not say that like this is all interconnected.
Definitely.
I mean,
it is fascist.
It is
fascist.
Body fascism. Like,
I mean, it's fascist for any society to require or to need everybody to conform.
Yeah.
Like, that's just basically fascist. That's brainwashing. That's erasing our singularity. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just so dying to know and to hear about, you know, when you became immobile and like, how did you deal with that? Like, what was that? How did you deal with that emotionally? How did you, I mean, that's.
Yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard. I had to unpack a lot of the ableism that I held in myself around tying my worth to my mobility. When my mobility went, what trailed was a lot of negative feelings I had around my body, appearance that I had not had in a very long time.
Like what? Can you explain that?
And do you think that comes from like, do you think that there was some way that like knowing that you were exercising made you feel like, okay, well, I'm doing my part in my like health or whatever, so whatever like that, it maybe made you feel like your body was more okay because you were at least doing what you like should be doing.
Totally. And that was hard to swallow because it's not something that I felt like it was not a belief that I thought that I held about myself or other people. For as long as I've been like engaged in social justice, like disability justice is everything. I think it is a core piece of cracking open a person's politic is how they feel about disabled people. Because a lot of leftists don't envision a future that includes disabled or fat people, and that's just a fact. And we see that online all the time, where people who are self-identified leftists will be posting things like leftists need to get in the gym, and it's like, sure, Yeah, I mean, yeah, exercise is good for you. Totally. But like, who is that message directed at? And why did you feel the need to say it in that way? And why are you following it up with no exceptions? Because there are exceptions. There are people with different physical needs and access needs. And
what was it like for you at 500 pounds, your actual day-to-day life?
It was hard because I was in so much pain, you know? And like, I do not attribute that pain to my size. I attribute that pain to the inflammation, because as soon as I began treatment, like, yes, I started losing weight, but like immediately my pain went away. Like, not completely, obviously, but so quickly. Like, a lot of the pain I was having decreased. And like, to the people who would attribute that pain to the fact that I was 500 pounds, if you're saying I'm having this pain because I'm 500 pounds, then why wouldn't I have that pain at 480? So I had really, really intense back pain. And that was actually really like funny, the like only pain that I experienced. But it was so severe that when I stood up, my back would immediately start spasming, and then I would lose feeling in my legs and I'd have to sit down. So I could stand for maybe 2 minutes tops by like right before I got diagnosed or when I got diagnosed. It was really, really severe. And I had other things going on that I didn't even know were like life-threatening. Like my legs, when you have lipedema and it's so progressed, there is like a fluid buildup. So I had stage 4 lipedema, which includes a diagnosis of lymphedema. And lymphedema is when your legs or other body parts fill with lymph fluid below the skin. And mine had gotten so bad that there's this condition called leg weeping. So the fluid, because of the pressure buildup, has nowhere to go. So it tries to get through your skin. And so there are like micro tears in your skin. Ooh. And literally, like, I would be sitting here and I would like look down, there'd be like a pool of fluid on the floor. And it was, I didn't know what it was. I told my doctor about it. He didn't say anything about it. Wow. When I finally got diagnosed, I started seeing a lymphatic therapist, and she was like, this is really bad because like through the tears in your skin, you can get cellulitis. And when you have lymphedema, the way your body like rids itself of like infection or like whatever when you get a cut or something is the lymph fluid moves and then it gets cleaned by your lymph nodes and then goes back into your circular system, like your blood, whatever. And if that's not happening, which it's not, if you have lymphedema, that's not happening, that means that the infection just sits there, and then you get cellulitis. And then if you have cellulitis and you are a person with lymphedema, especially a larger person, if you go to the ER, they'll give you antibiotics, but they won't give you enough. And so then you will likely die. Wild to learn about 2 years into experiencing that and being like, oh, because I randomly was using antibacterial soap, I like saved myself from getting cellulitis and like risking death. So, I mean, and that was just tough.
How was it like emotionally for you? How did you get out of low moments? I mean, how did you cope on day to day? Like, that's a very scary thing to happen to somebody, is to, you know, to be in that much pain, to not be able to move, to not be able to live your life, to feel your life so distant from you is scary. How did you deal with it?
I have a lot of fight in me. I was just constantly looking for like the solution and making appointments and calling new doctors and being like, okay, what is this thing? And then what can we rule out? And then, and it was very back to back. Like, I don't think I really allowed myself the time to be like crushed by like how devastating it was. But it was devastating. It was devastating. The relationship to myself through that period was just like survival. How can I get around? Like, I'm very privileged that I have a car and I have my license. So like I could still go places if there was parking. I could get to my appointments by myself because I have that luxury. Like, if I didn't have the car, oh my God, I don't know. Maybe I would have had to move in my mom or something. I don't know. Like,
And have you, and like, what is the last year as far as healing from that experience? Like, is there anything that comes to mind when, like, as what's been really healing?
Really dancing again. I was so scared to go back to a dance class after not dancing for 3+ years, like terrified. And now I'm dancing like 3 days a week. And like, I literally feel like myself for the first time in like 5 years.
That's amazing.
Which
Wow.
is like,
Congratulations.
thank you. It's just, it's like the connection to the body that like, I feel like I became like a floating head. Like, not just because I couldn't move in the way that I was used to, but because I had to spend so much brain time being like, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? What is wrong with me? And then like trying to convince people that something was wrong with me. And
not the thing that they were blaming you
Yes.
and telling you was wrong with you.
Yes, and being like, my body is a symptom. My body is a symptom. Like, we're not, you think my body is the cause, but my body is like the symptom. Like, and I felt like over and
That's so frustrating.
like,
So unbelievably frustrating.
broken record. Like, I am so grateful that there were people who believed me at the end of it, because I mean, I was at a point where I was like writing like a death note. I was like, if I go, if this is my end, like, this is what happened. And like, you can blame my body all you want, but like, I do not know what else I could have done over the past 3 years, 2 years extensively, like, to do anything differently, like, at that point.
Wow. Let me go. I'm so glad you're here and that didn't happen.
Totally.
I know.
And now that you are here with us and moving forward into this new chapter, did you bring an outfit that represents the new version of yourself that you're stepping into?
I did.
May we see it?
Of course.
May you transform into the next version of Jordan?
Outfit change, yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Wow.
Quiet, beautiful.
Okay, so in what way does this sort of like represent the next version of you that might be like a notch more self-loving and free in who you are?
Well, I picked this for several reasons. One, it has flowers on it, and I love flowers. I feel like flowers are like such a basic but like true like symbol of growth. I love this jumpsuit. I feel like now that I am like back on the go, I'm like, it's something that I would just like throw on and run out the door and like not even think about. And that to me is something that like I really had lost. Like I said, like I couldn't stand for more than like a minute or two. And what that meant was like when I was getting dressed, like, oh my God, I couldn't get dressed. Like I would have to sit down, pick it out, and then I stand up. I like put my pants on, sit back down, or put my underwear on, sit back down, put my pants on, sit back down. Like I had accepted that was maybe what my life was going to be for the rest of my life. Wow. Genuinely. I was like, if this is what it is what it is, and I accept that, and I love myself because of it. Like I love my
huge.
I will not despite myself. Like I love myself fully, no matter what the conditions are, because I know that I'm doing the best that I can. Yeah, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to go, you know, and like see where this next chapter takes me, because I don't really believe that it was like time lost. But it was time that like I feel like I had this like build up of like a yearning to dance again, to be on stage again, to tell stories, to do these things that have been my passions for my whole life. But now I'm like in this point in my life where I might have to get surgery. Well, I probably should get surgery because there's a surgery that helps with the condition, and that'll be another kind of healing hurdle. But I'm ready to get rolling, you know?
To live your dreams.
Yeah. And to get back to living my dreams, because
To get back to living your dreams and to be your entire being.
yeah.
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 I like the phrase healing hurdle or something, because I think it's like it's a more positive way of putting it, because instead of like, I don't know, setback or something that's
just like a
negative.
little bump, like a little speed bump.
Yeah.
We just never know what's going to happen in this life. Like, I don't know when I get the surgery, how the surgery is going to go. I didn't know I was going to lose my mobility. I didn't know I had this condition. And so, like, I can only move forward, like, with the information that I have and the tools that I have at the time that I'm going through the thing that I'm going through.
Mm-hmm. Would you trade your experience?
No, I don't know. I wish I wish that, like, the world were better equipped to help people through these hurdles. Do I wish things were different? Yeah. I wish that I was diagnosed when I was 13 and I started presenting symptoms. I wish my pediatrician had told my mom that putting me on Weight Watchers when I was 8 years old, something that she signed off on, was not a good idea. Like, I wish that, the doctors that I brought up lipedema to so many times over the span of 2 years, I wish that any one of them knew what the fuck I was talking about. There were so many points throughout my whole life, like points for intervention, that just did not happen. If that is true for me, someone who grew up with, financial privileges, a white person, like, I know so many people for whom, like, it is not true, who have to face so many more hurdles because as much as I was not believed, like, they are not believed tenfold. Mm-hmm. I wish that the systems were different.
Yeah.
Well, I you keep saying, like, believe in what that's come up a lot. That's like a theme. Believe in what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'd like to really I don't want that to just go unnoticed, because I'd like it to be emphasized, because I think, what is that people don't believe people? Is that gaslighting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is gaslighting. And gaslighting is really, I think, one of the most emotionally abusive behaviors that we do to each other.
Completely.
Believe a person when they're saying something and
especially about their own body, like,
or feelings
or whatever it is. And
like, you're not wrong
yeah,
to have feelings that come out of you. You're not wrong to have to have an understanding of your own body and know when something, to know yourself, to know your body, to be told that you are not to be believed for knowing your body or for knowing your feelings. Yeah. Ooh, like you can't, and these are the choices that we can make. We can choose to believe someone's feelings.
Yeah.
And we can choose to believe someone's feelings about thoughts or feelings or understandings of their body and their experiences.
Honor each other's experience.
Yeah, honor your feelings, honor your experiences of your body. These are just so fundamental and basic, and I don't know how we can expect to not have war and violence if we are not even doing that. Like, literally.
Yeah. So what does self-acceptance mean to you?
Knowing that we are all doing the best we can and we can always do better. I always say that, like, shame is not, like, a useful emotion, because guilt, sure, because, like, the difference between guilt and shame, right, is that, like, guilt is that you are going against your, like, value system, and then shame is, like, an external source, right? You are shamed. You are shamed because you're fat and society tells you that being fat is bad. If we're all living in accordance with our values, which I would argue is, like, the goal, yeah, like, parsing through those voices and be like, what is it that I believe? And, like, how am I moving through the world in a way that is supporting those beliefs and acting in accordance with those beliefs. And what's all the muck? What is it? And get rid of it.
And that's self-acceptance in your mind. Getting rid of the muck, getting rid of the shame.
Yeah.
That is not serving your life.
Because that's where we start judging people, I think. It's not the shame. Like, who told you to hate fat people? You were not born hating fat people.
No, you're not born hating anyone.
You're not born hating anyone. You're not.
And we're not born hating ourselves either.
Who gets paid? Who gets paid for your...
Lots of money is made. All the money is made on us hating ourselves.
And hating on other people.
And And if you hate yourself, you're going to hate on other people. So, and that's where the shame comes in, because it's pointless. It's what creates that.
Exactly.
Last question. What would you tell your child self to never change about who they are?
Great question. Like, the fire inside. I feel like I had so much fire and so sensitive. I've always been so sensitive. And I think like those things are one and the same. Like the fire that I feel is because of my sensitivity. And like for a lot of my life, I really felt like that was such a burden. Like I just like hated myself because I just wanted to be normal. One of the biggest ones was I was like, I don't want to feel so heartbroken by all of the horrors of the world, things happening to me, things happening to other people. But it is like the only reason why I am who I am today is because of...
You feel everything.
I feel everything. You can be consumed by your emotions, and you can allow those emotions to be a fire that like pushes you forward. I feel so lucky to have made it to 27 and to be in a place where I can feel those things and allow it to spark a flame and push me forward, as opposed to like not getting out of bed for a week, which is something that I used to experience.
That was like
so beautiful.
Wow. I loved that.
Thank you so much.
You are a fire. Can't wait to see where you're going in your jumpsuit. in your floral jumpsuit. You've experienced so much, and you're 27, and like you can articulate it in the most beautiful way, and it's just you're destined for, I don't know,
making a big impact.
Yeah, making a big impact, changing the world.
Thank you both. And everyone.
Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Don't Change a Thing. If you want to watch more episodes of Don't Change a Thing, they come out every Thursday on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you're notified of every time we drop a new episode.